Okay. Here we go, everybody. Here we go. This is the Land Commander Gulf War III update for March 19, 2026. Pretty sure today is day 19 of Gulf War III. And, if I'm just going to sum it up real quickly, I'm going to say it's getting spicier by the hour. Let's just say that. And I think the potential for it to get even more spicy is quite high. Absolutely the name of the game right now, or the name of the situation is, it remains a regional conflict. It is escalating in scope and scale, and the odds of this dying down anytime soon seem pretty slim. Real quick, I'm figuring this channel out, so today we've got some nice imagery behind us. We've got today's press conference with everybody's favorite dude, Secretary Hegseth. Secretary of Defense, not War. Secretary of Defense. We got the Qatari and Turkish ministers voicing their discontent with oil infrastructure being blown up. And then, we got a visualizer going to go with the music. That's fun. But of course, you'll notice we've got the CENTCOM YouTube strike playlist playing. And of course, you'll see, yes, this is 2015. I understand that is not this conflict. But the footage looks very similar, and really what I'm trying to illustrate with that is we've been dicking around, blowing stuff up in the Middle East, whether you think it's a good idea or not, for a very long time. And we've blown stuff up in Iran. We were doing back in the 80s. We haven't been doing it in a while, but we've blown stuff all up over there. Iraq, Syria, Yemen, et cetera, and we've been helping people do it too. Israel. Okay, so let's see, where are we gonna start? Well, we'll start with this guy, everybody's favorite, Secretary Hegseth. So, morning press conference, here we go. And what are they gonna talk about? Well, I'm just gonna say it's always Groundhog Day at the Pentagon somehow. Every day, this guy, everybody's favorite, gets up there and he goes and tells us, what does he tell us? He tells us, oh yeah, the Iranian Navy's been destroyed. Their Air Force has been destroyed. Their missiles have been destroyed. Everything's been destroyed, and we're laser focused. He's always telling us that everything's been blown up, and today's gonna be the biggest, most intense strikes yet of the conflict. And then the next day, it's the same thing. So it's like, okay, well, if the Iranian Navy was blown up yesterday, why is it blown up today? Okay, anyway, it's always Groundhog Day. There's also this ongoing attempt to somehow make it seem like this conflict's gonna spin down real soon and that everything's under control, hence the constant everything's blown up. Today's gonna be the most intense attacks, kinetic action so far of the war, all that stuff. It's an attempt to make it seem like it's gonna be done very soon. But then they go on to say things that are just very contradictory to that. Like, for instance, they're getting ready to ask for $200 billion, or maybe they did today, I'm not quite sure, but $200 billion from Congress to pay for this war, right? And I'm just gonna say, that doesn't sound like that's gonna be over real quick. We also had the resignation, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, the resignation of, I think it was the head of the Counterterrorism Center, a big Trump guy. He resigned very publicly from his post, stating that he feels that Israel essentially tricked Trump and the administration into this war, and he couldn't stand by it. Saying things like, Mr. President, you've gone against your America First policy, and you've been tricked by the Israelis into doing this for no obviously good reason. There was no perceivable immediate threat from Iran. High-ranking officials in any government do not just resign, particularly in such a public way, if they think whatever they're worried about is going to blow over real soon. I do not know when this conflict will end, and I do not know when U.S. involvement in this conflict will end. I don't see it winding down, anytime soon. Just based upon these factors and other things I'm seeing. Let's not forget too, we have the Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group, which is forward deployed in Japan in the Indo-Pacific, has been retasked and is in transit to the 5th Fleet Area of Operations. They were passing through the Strait of Malacca, I think this morning or last night, my time, putting them about a week or so out from coming on station. Amphibious Ready Group is a naval task force centered around essentially like a light carrier that in this case has the ability to launch helicopters, the Marine Corps F-35B variant of the Joint Strike Fighter, which can take off from a very short deck, right? These are much smaller than the super carriers like the Nimitz or the Ford, which have catapults to help fling jets off the front of them. And they can also land vertically, allowing them to take advantage of these smaller ships. They also have a well deck in the back, which is means they have the ability to take ship-to-shore transports and move Marines from the ship directly to the shore. So 2,500 Marines on the Iwo Jima. It's accompanied by support vessels, escort vessels, just like a traditional carrier strike group. What we're gonna do with that, I don't know. Good question, hard to say. It's hard to say, what are you gonna do with an amphibious ready group? You've got 2,500 Marines, they're on a ship, they've got support vessels, they have indigenous air power in the F-35B, in addition to other aerial assets such as rotary wing and drone. They have the ability to put, troops and material on shore indigenously. They have the ability to defend themselves in the ocean indigenously, all in theory, right? I mean, it depends what kind of environment you're in. But here's the big one. Okay, so you bring the ARG into theater. 2,500 Marines, I mean, yeah, you can do a lot with that, but you can only do so much. I mean, you're not gonna take Tehran, right? So what might you do with it? Well, okay, you can maybe take Kyrg Island. Kyrg Island being a major oil, like the major oil export hub for Iranian oil. Most of their oil gets moved through pipelines, most of the natural gas through pipelines to this island where it has natural deep water ports. It's collected there in tanks and other holding systems and then offloaded on tankers for export out of the Gulf. In theory, maybe you could take that with the Amphibious Ready Group and use that as some sort of leverage or bargaining chip to try to force, an end to the conflict on your terms. The first thing though is how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna get from the Indian Ocean essentially to the Gulf of Arabia, the Persian Gulf, whichever you wanna call it, where this island is? How are you gonna do that, especially when you can't get through the Strait of Hormuz? So let's remember, the Strait of Hormuz, as we talked about yesterday, and this does remain true today based upon the maritime data that I've been able to see and other reports I've been looking at, it appears that Iran is continuing to attempt to make the Strait of Hormuz from a choke point to an Iranian-controlled checkpoint. We are continuing to see vessels diverting, going through Iranian waters and heading back out of the Gulf. Again, not huge numbers, but we're still seeing it. Also, there are likely ships that are doing it more clandestinely, turning off their transponders and using other means to mask, hide, or spoof their location. Anyway, the strait is effectively controlled by Iran at the moment. There is very little traffic going through it. And let's remember, the United States Navy is not operating in the Gulf. We've been keeping all of our assets, the carriers, the Arleigh Burkes, everything outside of the Gulf, outside of the Strait of Hormuz. Go back to 2003 when we went to Iraq, we sailed multiple carrier strike groups right into the Persian Gulf. We did that in '91 when we went in for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Very different threat environment right now. Now we're super worried that you sail a carrier in there and the Iranians are gonna blow it up from the shore or something, or use drones. So how are you gonna get these Marines to that island? And I think I was suggesting this yesterday. I think by all accounts, I think the United States is getting ready to attempt to force open the Strait of Hormuz militarily. I think the timing of it could easily coincide with the arrival of the Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group. Not necessarily right when they do, but sometime in that time horizon. I imagine also by then the replacement for the Ford Carrier Strike Group should be on station as well. So you'd have a fresh Carrier Strike Group on station, you'd have the ARG on station. I've read reports that a bunch of E-2 Greyhounds, which are airborne command and control aircraft that are launched from carriers, are being sent from the United States to the Middle East, unattached from a specific carrier, air wing, or carrier. That doesn't usually happen. The other thing is basically Trump is backed into a corner here. He's ratcheted his way up the escalation ladder to the point where if he doesn't force open the strait, what he risks is that the Iranians do effectively make it a checkpoint that they control and will control into the future. And thus, not only will the regime remain, which it's going to remain no matter what. I'm just going to call that right now. The regime is not falling for all kinds of reasons. It's just not happening. I mean, not anytime soon. I mean, I'm sure someday this regime will, but not tomorrow. In fact, it will probably come out of this stronger, more cohesive, and probably more religiously and ideologically intense. But if they control that as a checkpoint, then even if the regime survives, I mean, that's one thing. But if they control that's a huge loss to the United States. It's a huge loss for the United States on a strategic level of massive proportions, because so much of the international order, the Western order, how things work today is underpinned by freedom of navigation on the seas, which has been underpinned, guaranteed by the United States Navy for a very long time. We've forced the strait to stay open in the past, and if we are unable to do so now, I do not know what that will mean in the long run strategic context and landscape, but it will not be good. So Trump has basically backed himself into a corner. He has to get this open again. It does not help, of course, that because we're in a war with Israel, and Israel is not part of our unified command. They have their own objectives, their own timelines. Like I said yesterday, Trump could turn the war off from the U.S. perspective tonight, right now, order the carriers back, turn the amphibious ready group around, maybe not empty all the bases, but just turn it off as best he could and signal in every way he could. We're done blowing stuff up, over Iranian territory. Wouldn't matter. The Israelis would just keep going, right? The Israelis are doing their own thing. And it's really embarrassing and problematic. And I struggle. And if anybody out there knows me to be incorrect on this, I know of no major, and I would argue no minor military operation where the United States was involved with other nations, where the United States was not only in control, in command, but exercised pretty intense unity of command over the other forces there. I am sure there are some peacekeeping, and I'm talking, since World War II, let's say. I'm sure in 18 whatever that wasn't the case. I'm not sure if we were fighting with any allies that much back then either. Let's be fair, but let's just say, look, there's no major military operation the United States has ever undertaken in modern times that I know of where we were working with allied partners and we were not in a unified command under U.S. control. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. It's just astounding. It doesn't matter what you think of Israel now. This is just a terrible way to prosecute a war. I'm going to call this too. Like, this is going to. So okay. Let's say I'm right, and we're going to force this thing open. And so we're gonna continue to flow assets into the region, and when we think we have enough, the political clock hits a certain point, because that's really what's going to drive this. And we go and we kinetically try to reopen the strait. Well, whatever that really starts to look like, whether it's a lot of shooting on day one or it's a long drawn out thing before it's declared open, it is essentially going to become an indefinite thing, because it is the perception that the Iranians have the ability at will to sink tankers that is stopped shipping, right? The reason ships aren't flowing is because insurance rates have gone crazy. Nobody's going to insure this stuff. And, people don't want to die. And when the United States Navy won't even, sail through the strait, why would you expect tankers to? I mean, unless, they get Iranian permission, right? So, okay, so we sail in there, we blow a bunch of stuff up on the beaches, blah, blah, blah. But okay, I mean, Okay, so day one, boom, the tankers can flow in theory. Day two, I mean, how long before the tankers flow? Now I imagine if the United States Navy and Air Force were able to give a good show, they could probably get tankers trying to flow fairly quickly because there's a lot of pressure to get the oil and gas out of there. But all it takes is Iran hitting one tanker, you know, a week in, 2 weeks in, and the tankers are gonna stop moving, insurance rates are gonna spike, and we're gonna have to, you know, go crazy. What I'm really getting at is that no matter how it plays out, in order to keep the strait open, rather the perception that it's open, we are on the hook essentially indefinitely, right? Endless war. It's not ending. How exactly it looks day to day, what we want to call it might ebb and flow, but yeah, we're gonna be in this for a very long time, trying to keep the strait open for the flow of oil and gas. And there's something else we gotta sort of big picture that is often, I think, overlooked in discussions about this whole region, the United States involvement there, our obsession with the region, the amount of assets we focus there. I mean, for years, we've talked about pivoting our soft and hard power focus to the Indo-Pacific, right? And it's happened in fits and starts. Where do we never seem to get out of no matter what we talk about? The Middle East. There's a lot of reasons for that. But let us not forget, in 1972, when Nixon pulled the old switcheroo on everybody and took the dollar and detached it from gold, the reason that actually worked out is because he cut essentially a deal with the Gulf states, the Saudis primarily, but all of them, where they would accept dollars for petrol, for oil, petrodollar, right? So the reason the dollar is able to be the reserve currency is because at the end of the day, people know that they could take their dollars and buy oil with it. Convertible to something they can then do something with it. They can sell it, they can make stuff, right? And in doing that, we really cut a deal with the devil, because now we're pretty much on the hook to A, always need to be burning oil, right? There has to always be a demand for oil, and specifically Gulf oil. And B, like, we're pretty much on the hook for making sure that they stay secure. So that doesn't necessarily drive everything that happens, but it is always in the backdrop to all of this. And you can actually think about this whole thing with Iran through that lens to a lot of degrees, because, well, Iran's a big oil exporter. They are not playing ball and interested in playing ball with the empire, right? They've been a thorn in the empire's side for 40 years, right? And, you know, let's not forget that. That's part of why we're there, is to remind everybody that, hey, you know, it might take 40 years, but around the empire long enough, we're gonna get you. You know, Iran sells a lot of oil to China. Iran starts taking Chinese currency for oil in a big way, right? Like that's a way to start to dethrone the dollar as its preeminent, world's preeminent currency, to erode the United States' influence in the region, et cetera, et cetera. So you knock Iran out, and it becomes much harder for China to find a way to get their currency, if that is something they wanted, to be, if not the world's reserve currency, which seems unlikely, but part of, say, a basket of reserve currency. Anywho, boy, that was a lot there, wasn't it? Okay, so who knows what's gonna happen to this amphibious ready group? I do think we're gonna try to force them in the strait. It's gonna be a shit show. Who knows? Trump might lose a fucking. The Iwo Jima might sink, right? I mean, he could totally box this, right? You get that ship in the strait at the wrong time, they get a shot off. Oh my God, wow. I mean, I'm not hoping for that. I'm just saying, wow, like that is just, oh geez. Okay, let's see what else we got here. You know, it's a dynamic conflict, so lots to talk about. I also wanted to say, thank God, General Kane, there he is, there's our boy, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Thank God he's up there every day next to that lovely man, Secretary Exel. That is a quality individual, and I do, everything else aside, I do appreciate that he takes time every day to call out and to highlight different specialties and groups of people within the military that really make the military work, the grease of the whole thing, people who do the aerial refueling, the logistics, you know, the stuff that enables the warfighter to do their thing. And whatever you think of this war, Trump, who cares? I think having, you know, the chairman up there being a cheerleader for his troops and all that is good. We're seeing operations expand eastward in Iran from the west. We're also seeing the introduction of a lot of AH-64 attack gunships and A-10 Warhogs down in the southern areas of down and around the Strait of Hormuz, attempting to take out drones and things like that. I'm not really sure how effective that's been. Apparently also the United States struck Karg Island again and blew up 90 military targets, which back to the Groundhog Day thing. Trump literally the other day said we blew up all the military targets on Karg Island. So whatever, I guess it's just Groundhog Day at the Pentagon, always. The United States continues to be adverse to directly attacking and destroying Iranian oil infrastructure of any kind. The Israelis, on the other hand, do not give a fuck at all. Of course they don't. And they just very recently struck some pretty intense blows to an Iranian gas field, which of course then escalated things. The Iranians began shooting at the Qatari, a big Qatari gas field, which apparently has now suffered such damage that 70% of its capacity is offline and will not be back online for an indeterminate amount of time. The major refinery, refined petroleum products refinery in Haifa, Israel, was hit and taken offline. 50% or so of refined petroleum products in Israel come from that facility. So I don't know the full extent to the damage. I don't know how quickly it'll come back on, but Israel going ahead and hitting these energy assets and infrastructure is absolutely escalating things. And that's what, you know, these guys over here are talking about. They're all pissed off, right? Because the Israelis have done this, so the Iranians are striking back, which makes total sense and fits within the broader, essentially strategy that the Iranians are undertaking of an attritional warfare where they will continue to ratchet things up as they see fit under the belief that they can outlast us, which, you know, we're gonna see. I don't know, we're gonna see. In the sense that I don't think the United States is leaving the Middle East, and I don't think Iran's going anywhere. Now, how the day-to-day conflict unfolds in the coming weeks and months and years, I'm not totally sure, but let's see. Yeah, this is not going to be over soon. We're really going to be in this for a while. Other big news: an F-35A operated in the United States Air Force made an emergency landing at some Allied airfield or friendly airfield in the Middle East after sustaining damage during a combat operation over Iranian airspace. There are allegations, and there is a video that looks pretty convincing that shows that the F-35 was hit by an Iranian surface-to-air asset of some kind. It didn't destroy the aircraft, but it did damage it. It seems the pilot's okay. We'll know more later, and the video could be fake, but that is in no way necessarily to be taken as a condemnation of the F-35 overall or the program overall, but it is a reminder that even fifth-gen aircraft operating in contested airspace can be struck, right? And it's a reminder that this is still contested space, and it's going to remain so, right? There's been allegations that Netanyahu, the head of Mossad, have been killed. I have not found anything credible to say that is true. If it is, wow, it would be a huge boon for Iranian targeting and kinetic operations. If I find evidence that one or both of them been killed or injured or whatever, I will get it out there in the next video. I just ran out of video, dang. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna just restart this video real quick. Why not, you know? Yeah, we're kind of getting pretty far into it, so I guess we'll kind of finish up here. The other big thing going on, of course, is, you know, the newest escalation is the war in Lebanon, the Israeli push on the ground into southern Lebanon, in the broader aerial and indirect fires campaign against Lebanon as a whole. You know, there continue to be airstrikes and other standoff and indirect fires, attacks all over Beirut, all over southern Lebanon. There are ground incursions going on. The Hezbollah is, of course, hitting back, firing rockets and artillery and using drones to hit targets inside Israel. Oh, the Iranians also dropped a bunch of cluster munitions over, I think it was Tel Aviv the other day. Again, all of this continues to suggest that Iranian command and control and ISR assets indigenously and support with intelligence from external actors is continuing to regenerate rapidly and also adapt rapidly. You know, what we understand, what the Israelis understood about the existing Iranian command and control structure no longer applies, right? Because we've blown it up. So just like any good adversary, they will adapt, they will change, you know? Yeah. And it's Secretary of Defense. God damn it. All right, guys, thank you so much. This has been the Land Commander Gulf 4-3 update for March 19, 2026. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, reach for the lasers and embrace the motherfucking lights. All right.